Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker Live. We're doing this for the first time as a test show today because everybody knows how much I love Olga Lautman. Everybody also knows how much I love the Trump Tyranny Tracker. Everybody does. It's one of the best resources out there to learn about what the Trump regime is doing to downgrading and eliminating our democracy. And Olga and I thought, well, let's try to do this as a show every day, a brief show where we can encapsulate the big stories of the day. How are you doing, Olga?
I'm doing good, surviving in this tyrannical insanity.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of work. I'm sure it goes into putting the tyranny tracker every day. Let's get to it right away. So the number one story really is about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, just took his toys and walked out of the peace talks in London. This is the Ukrainian peace talks, of course, that were happening between the Russians and the Ukrainians. This followed Zelensky's rejection of a U.S. proposal to recognize Russia's annexation of Crimea. Reports indicate that Steve Witkoff also decided to leave. The only person staying there from the United States right now is, we believe, General Keith Kellogg, who might still be there and negotiating on America's behalf. But clearly, Marco Rubio and Donald Trump are out. What does this mean?
Well, basically, we've had many shows on the fact that, Trump's peace proposal, quote unquote, is a sham plan to try to force Ukraine to surrender. It gets even more egregious with Crimea because not only is Trump trying to threatening that the U.S. will recognize Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea. But part of this plan that was delivered to Ukraine is that Ukraine must recognize it. Can you imagine if someone breaks into your house, murders your family, and then you have to recognize that they have a right to be in your house? I mean, this is absolutely, on par for Trump, but complete insanity if we were in like Earth One. By the way, The Flash is one of my favorite shows.
But it's basically saying to the world as well that it's okay to take over countries or take over territories. I mean, if they allow this to happen, if Ukraine recognizes that Crimea can be part of Russia and Russia recognizes Crimea as part of Russia and the world recognizes it, well, we've given up on that idea that the borders that we established after World War II are sort of the borders, and now anyone can go at anything. So it's a real turning point.
And not only that, don't forget, after Crimea was illegally annexed, Russia set up concentration camps. They rounded up Ukrainians. They tortured Ukrainians. The kidnapping of children that we all hear about now, I was tracking back in 2014 and 15. They were kidnapping Ukrainian children out of Crimea and Donbass. So, I mean, this is not, first of all, this is illegal. By international law, this is illegal. So the U.S. will be the only one with Iran and North Korea who recognize, that Crimea is Russian, whereas the rest of the world understands that it's Ukrainian and that Russia is illegally occupying this land. But the human rights, I mean, we are basically for, rewarding Putin for genocide and war crimes. I mean, that's basically it. Just so Trump can get his Trump Tower deal and, make money off of business deals with Russia.
It certainly looks to me a lot like appeasement, way back when. It sounds like the same kind of a strategy. Let's turn to what's going on at the Department of Veterans Affairs and also at the Department of Justice, where they've started this anti-Christian bias thing. These are task forces, I guess, in each of these organizations, each of these departments, I should say, where people are being encouraged to report anti-Christian bias. In other words, employees must submit names of colleagues, spying on colleagues, I guess, who questioned religious exemptions or have indicated some opposition to some kind of critical health exemptions. Tell me a little bit more about this. It seems to me like it's a surveillance operation where you're getting government employees to spy on other government employees.
So I think he really took this out of the Soviet Russian playbook because, I mean, going back to the Tsars, the most powerful thing besides, currently the tools, surveillance tools that exist, is the network of informants. And this has happened, for centuries inside of Russia, where they have informants within the government, within everywhere. I mean, your local barber shop, people could be informants collaborating with the FSB to report any kind of dissent or criticism of the regime or its agenda. And basically, what they're doing here is creating an internal informant system. And again, they're testing it on federal workers. I believe this will expand to the rest of society. Um, they're creating an informant system to basically have people rat each other out. So it's to kill dissent. So you will always be paranoid because the one thing over the past centuries in Russia is the paranoia. I mean, that's embedded in people's genes because you never know. Is it your mother who might rat you out, your cousin, your sister, your, co-worker? And this is what he wants to do here because a paranoid society will less likely, push back against the regime. And in this case, like I said, I believe they're doing, starting with federal workers to test this system out.
So it's
And
it's embedding fear into the society basically on every level because it's really going to be about informing on your neighbors, on your friends, and on your colleagues.
yes. And inside the government, can you imagine?
Mm.
I mean, Trump is carrying out a slew of illegal things. And basically, the normal American motto is see something, say something. And here, basically, they're carrying out loyalty tests inside the government to silence people who see something that is happening that is illegal.
What's
I
up with the
mean,
anti-Christian bias?
this is appealing to his white, nationalist, Christian nationalist base. I mean, Putin uses the same with the Orthodox Church, using it as the front for these type of operations, and just in general to pretend that he has some sort of ideology. I mean, Trump couldn't care less about Christianity. But, this is something that his base, the Christian nationalists, this is what they want.
So he's, suppressing dissent within the government as well, but he's also suppressing dissent in the journalism that we see on TV. Amongst the most prized TV shows is 60 Minutes. CBS's News 60 Minutes is has been guarding its independence and been a vanguard for independent investigative journalism in the world of network TV. And now that seems to be slipping. Bill Owens, who is the executive producer of 60 Minutes and a colleague of mine, I worked with him at 60 Minutes, an outstanding independent journalist with critical thinking and smart understanding of what it means to be an investigative news show like that every week. Well, he stated he could no longer make independent editorial decisions. This is happening during the FCC scrutiny of Paramount's sale and also Trump's $20 billion lawsuit against CBS. So, Trump sues CBS. Trump sued 60 Minutes specifically around Kamala Harris's interview. And suddenly you're seeing this chill, obviously, about what he can report on and what he can't report on as the executive producer. This has never, in my experience, been the case at CBS. When I was there, it certainly wasn't like that. And Bill Owens is now stepping away from this very important position. And this really is endangering the freedom of the press.
So when I put my tracker together, I always look at stories like that strike a Russian tone. And for instance, again, referring to Putin, the first thing he did when he came in was to take over control of the media, because having control of the information space is paramount to controlling a society. Now it's become harder with social media and, so many platforms. I mean, it's definitely a drop harder. But the fact that, I mean, there are two things. One here at issue is the fact that Trump wants to take control of the media in order, to suppress them from reporting facts, the truth, investigating. The other issue is that Trump is weaponizing our agencies. Now, these are taxpayer agencies. This is not Trump's DOJ. This is not Trump's FCC. This is we're paying taxes for this. He is weaponizing these agencies to silence media. And my worry is that the more that he does it, the more you're going to see self-censorship within the media. So you will either have people just walk away like Owens did, or you will have people censoring and saying, maybe we shouldn't report on this. Maybe we shouldn't investigate this, because they won't, want to fall into the path of of Trump.
It's
And
really
this is
interesting
the
that
bigger issues.
yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying there. That the FCC, which is basically will approve whatever merger that happens with Paramount. That's the pressure that's being implemented. So it involves the entire corporation. They obviously desire this merger, but because the FCC needs to approve it, Trump can determine whether they go ahead or not. And in that case, that will suppress the reporting inside the organization because they'll be penalized. Journalists will be penalized if this merger doesn't happen. What a terrible fate to befall this great institution of 60 Minutes. When you think about the great journalists that have reported at 60 Minutes and the great work that they've done over the years, I'm interested in whether other journalists or whether journalists within CBS or other organizations of journalists are going to be making more of a stink about this. This is really a terrible sign of tyranny.
And I mean, look, you have seen, first of all, Trump recently, last week, just called for the FCC to pull the license of 60 Minutes, because he didn't like the interview that Zelensky did and something else that they discussed. But the thing is that it's, you see this attack on Associated Press, on Reuters, on NPR, basically all independent media, and they are using the FCC and other agencies, one, to open investigations into, any quote unquote wrongdoings by independent media outlets. And two, you see him also attacking Voice of America and others, PBS, to try to pull funding from them. Because again, his main goal is to create, a dictator echo chamber, and that no free press can break through, and that they're sidelined, intimidated, scared. I mean, and we don't want to go down this path, and this is why I suggest we push back now, because in Russia, I mean, you see what happens. Journalists are killed
Yeah.
for reporting the truth.
Absolutely. Someone just mentioned on the chat there that Don Hewitt would be turning in his grave, and of course that's the creator of 60 Minutes, and he would be. I mean, this is the tradition of CBS News, and 60 Minutes is very deep and important. And if it starts shifting, that'll be a terrible thing. We don't have real time for the story, but I just want to mention it quickly. There's suggestion, I guess, that Donald Trump is busy selling exemptions to the tariffs because he is trying to make money off the tariffs while everyone else is losing money.
Yes, so I believe it was ProPublica that did an investigation, and I mean, there are very questionable tariff exemptions, that are happening. I will put my life on the fact that Trump is selling tariffs. Trump sells pardons. He would sell his children, anything that he can sell to make money off of, and at the same time to show that he has control over, the situation, in this case, who is exempt or not, he would do. So my personal opinion is that, when Trump announced these tariffs, it opened up, a very dangerous path for corruption and cronyism. And we're seeing people coming. I mean, the day that he tanked the market, he was playing with the Saudis and hosting, $1 million per head dinner at Mar-a-Lago. What do you think these people are paying for?
Mm,
Not
Unbelievable.
to hang out with him.
Can you imagine? Well, that's the Trump Tyranny Tracker today on our first attempt at doing this. Thank you very much, Olga Lautman, for helping us shape the show. show. And of course, we've learned today that Trump is willing to walk away from Ukraine talks and basically subvert an entire 80-year history of the way the borders are respected in the world. We've learned about his attempts to create a surveillance system within the administration by looking for this anti-Christian bias and people informing on their colleagues. And we've learned how he's affecting the freedom of the press by using these powers within the FCC and lawsuits against 60 Minutes and CBS, meaning that the executive producer of CBS is now, 60 Minutes is now resigned. That's Bill Owens. Plus, he's selling exemptions to the tariffs. How much more corruption can you possibly need? Everyone should check out the Trump Tyranny Tracker, which comes out every day, courtesy of Olga Lautman. And we'll do this again. I think it's going to be kind of fun.
Yes. Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.